and thank you for joining us today over here. The Center for Development Policy and Practice, in collaboration with ACODE, Digital Empowerment Foundation, and Lamakaan bring to you Bazm. The Center for Development Policy and Practice is a research institution that works on development concerns and contemporary public policy challenges. Working with a team of research professionals, consultants, and eminent public intellectuals, we work on various research studies, develop policy papers, and conduct a host of conferences, seminars, and workshops. Our partners, Digital Empowerment Foundation, works toward empowering people to gain access to better healthcare, education, and skills with the help of digital tools. Today, we have an exciting evening planned for you, and we'll start the evening by inviting the author Krishna Gubili of Viriah, who will start the book discussion for today.
दोस्तों, मैं आप सबका शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहूँगा कि आज शाम आपकी मसरूफियत के बावजूद आप सबने वीरैया की कहानी सुनने यहाँ तशरीफ़ लाए हैं। मैं सबसे पहले आमिर और फरहान, जो मेरे बड़े भाइयों से कम नहीं, उनकी शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहूँगा। और यहाँ बैठे हमारी बेगम साहिबा बिंदु, हमारी साहिबजादी याजुशा, मेरी बहन नंदिनी, और हमारे अब्बा हुजूर गुरुमती साहब तशरीफ़ लाए हैं। अब मैं वीरैया की कहानी सुनाऊंगा। मेरी उर्दू उतनी अच्छी नहीं है, बीच बीच में उर्दू बोलूँगा, बट आई विल टेल द स्टोरी इन इंग्लिश। ये कहानी जो है यहाँ से काफ़ी नज़दीक शुरू हुई थी। कहानी मल्लापल्ली बाजार घाट, ये कहानी मल्लापल्ली और बाजार घाट में शुरू होती है, जहाँ मैं बचपन में था। और मेरी दादी सब दादियों की तरह she used to tell a lot of stories. So each of the stories would have a moral. Each of these stories would have a fable. This is me, and this is my dad Gurumurthy, who's sitting right here, and this is my grandfather, who passed away when he was very young. So my dad actually didn't get to see his father. So my grandmother is telling me a lot of stories about her handsome husband, about how good his handwriting was, and how he would sit cross-legged, and she would say he was educated in South Africa. And in some of the stories, there would be another character, my ancestor, who was Viriah, that is, हमारे अब्बा हुजूर के अब्बा हुजूर के अब्बा हुजूर. So grandmother would tell me that Viriah would only say things about Natal or Durban. She wasn't sure what places they were, but she knew that he had come from South Africa. So while growing up, I'm curious about who this man was, why he went to South Africa. And grandmother said, when Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated, your ancestor, JNTU, where I did my engineering, and growing up with these stories about your grandfather, your great-grandfather, something about South Africa. And in those days, we didn't have any documents or photographs or nothing. And there was a twist to this story. And my grandmother, amongst the stories that she would tell me, she would say, in your house, the girls should never cry. So my younger sister is here as the testament. I never made her cry. I have an elder sister as well. So she would say, your grandfather, वो 6 भाई थे, एक ही बहन थी उनकी, वो घर में कुछ there was a struggle, and उनकी बहन रो के जो है घर से चली गई, and that was the day that your grandfather's downfall started. So they, my ancestor Viriah Garu, he died a very poor man, and we were growing up 6 people living in a 1-bedroom, right, in a Mallapalli, in a Bazm-e-Sukhan market. And in one of the stories, my grandmother would say, when Viriah came down of the ship in Madras, the ship captain said, Viriah, you will build a house with walls of gold. And I'm thinking, what is this walls of gold? And she's saying he was rich, but then we are in a very small home. And thus started a good family tree project. I'm trying to find out who was my ancestor, and जो बहन साउथ अफ्रीका में थी उनके बच्चे and उनका family was in South Africa, and we had one address. So I would diligently write to this address in Natal, Tonga, and you would get a reply maybe once in 5 years or one in 10 years. So in all of my childhood, maybe 2 replies. So you don't know who these relatives are, but you know that your family is there in South Africa. So I started writing to the embassies, and I ended up writing to the Vice President of South Africa saying, my ancestor was there, I have to find out what happened to him. So that email got forwarded to some research scholars, and they got in touch with me. And they said, Krishna, it is very difficult to get information about indentured coolies. So I'm in my 20s when I hear this word for the first time, indentured. So I go online, and what I read shook me up. So from India, you had 13 lakh people. That's 1.3 million Indians who were sent off as indentured labor to West Indies, to South Africa, Mauritius, Fiji, and Suriname. And then I start trying to put the timeline of when my ancestor might have been in South Africa, Gandhiji's assassination, and then one evening, thunder struck me, because I realized my ancestor was one of those 1.3 million people. So I start crying, because all this while it was a vague idea, but now I knew, and I was reading a lot about indentured coolies by then. So from then on, my life's mission became, I have to find my roots. I wanted to find out who my ancestor was. And a life of an indentured coolie was close to Gulami. These people were taken off in ships. So indentured labor in India happened between 1842 and 1917. So if you average it out, you had 500 Indians which were put on a ship every week. 500 Indians every week are put on ships which are going to West Indies, Mauritius, South Africa. Kahin ja raha hai. So these people, half the time, you had, because there's so much rush, couples could get separated. The wife goes off to Guyana, the husband goes off to Mauritius. And it was very, very sad that these ships which went from Calcutta and Madras, the only 2 places where these ships went from, there are a lot of these tragic stories about how families got separated while boarding, and after they got down, you could be assigned to 2 different farms. So the husband could go to one sugarcane farm, the wife could go to other farm, and you would never meet. And everybody here would have heard of the movie Titanic, right? I hope, is there anybody here who hasn't heard of the movie Titanic, right? And how many of you would have heard about the indentured Titanic? I guess nobody. So in Mauritius, indentured labor started on 1842. In 1859, there was a ship called Shah Alam, which went. There were 400 coolies on that ship, Nagesh, 400 coolies. The ship caught fire between Calcutta to Mauritius, and the 75 crew members, they got rescued. And then the number of coolies who were rescued out of that whole ship disaster was 1. And there is no Indian history textbook in schools or colleges which speaks of such enormous tragedies, and there is no documentation as well. And life of this indentured coolies was almost close to that of slaves. You would work dawn to dusk, 6 days a week. On the 7th day, you had to collect firewood to cook your meals. You had to take care of the manager in the farm and other work as well. 70% of that 13 lakh people who went to work on these plantations never stepped foot outside the farm. So if you stepped outside the farm manager could file a complaint that you are absconding and the police will catch and whip you. So this is how life was, that you were stuck inside the farm, and it was the Sardar's whims and fancies based on which you could get paid the weekly rations or food. After 5 years, which was the term of the indenture, you might get re-indentured again, because they would say, who would pay you the fare for you to come here? So another 5 years, another 5 years. So my ancestor worked in the farm for 32 years, and for the first 20, he was an indentured coolie, because he was indentured thrice, and then on he became free, and then he went on to become a Sardar, but that was maybe 0.01% of the coolies. He went on to learn the whole farming and become something. And the coolie woman, so when you look at this piece of history between 1840 to 1917, when this happened, to me, in this whole tragic episode, the coolie women are the real heroes. So imagine these women who, with hardly any education or occupational skill, are escaping, say, some problem in a Raebareli or an Aligarh or a Rajamundry or a Coimbatore. They're running away from home. These women, usually alone, would get sexually harassed by the Arkatis, who were the recruiters. They are going to a strange land where the smell is strange, the food is strange, the culture is strange, everything is strange, but these women strive to survive. They strive to succeed. And it is because of their hard work who had to get half wages and half rations. Because in that indentured agreement ऐसा लिख के था 14 साल से कम है और औरत half ration, half wages. It is documented. So these women are working dawn to dusk in the farm. In the weekend, they are selling vegetables and fruits in a market, and they built the whole foundations, because of which you have close to 4.5 million Indians, from Nobel winners like V.S. Naipaul to Prime Ministers in Mauritius, or golf legends like Vijay Singh, and so on and so forth. To me, these coolie women are the real heroes of the story. And I'm reading about this and I'm crying, because now I have to find my ancestor. So for about 20 plus years, this whole intense search starts off in when I was in my 20s, and then I tried to get the ship lists, and in those days you didn't have the ship lists readily available. I had to chase all the archives, then I got bits and pieces in CD-ROMs, and I put together all of the South Africa list into one humongous Excel spreadsheet. And then I got the news, the bad news, that when people got down from the ship, 2 महीने 3 महीने लगती थी to get a ship from Calcutta or Madras to South Africa or to Guyana. There you would have an English officer or a South African officer who would ask, what is your name? So these people, wobbly, shaken up, they would say, okay, my name is, say, Ramaya. So that person would write the name as how he heard it. And then a lot of coolies, when they landed, they realized they could change their caste, they could change their, so they could change their caste, they could change their age. So the records were suspect. So I'm looking for Viriah. I would ask my grandmother what was his name. She would say, yeah, he used to say Viriah, but at the farm they used to call him a boiler Sardar. So I couldn't figure out what is the connection between a boiler Sardar, and hopefully his name was spelled correctly. And I got hold of other databases in South Africa. The National Archives had released some, and it was just going through every name to see who came from Andhra Pradesh, because I knew for a fact that he came from Krishna district. So the only real clues I had were he came from Krishna district, and he ran off from home when he was a youngster. So my grandmother would say, even your grandfather, they had a issue in their home when his sister, your grandfather's sister, she cried, and there was some problem at home, so he left. He was very young. So I started filtering the whole database for less than 16 years passengers, and then it goes on. Then I would send any suspect list to the archive these in South Africa, and they would come back after 2 months saying, yeah, we found somebody like Viriah, he had like one son. I'm saying, no, he had 6 sons. Then I would find some more names I would send. They'll say, oh yeah, but he died in Natal. I would say, yeah, he came back. I knew that he came back to India. So it goes on and on. And finally, in December 2014, I gave up. So my grandmother, Mary Dadi, who was very close to me, she passed away in early 2014. So 2014 March. So ye March 23rd ko it will be 10 years since she's gone. And then I lost my will. That she was the one for whom I wanted to get this story. Ke unke shohar, I told her, I will find out where your husband was born, where your father-in-law worked. That was my pledge to her. And once she died, then as though that whole energy left. And in December, I told Bindu that we live in close to New York. So I told Bindu, now the project is over. I failed. So I just want to go to South Africa, and I'll stand in a sugarcane farm. I'll just pray. I'll say sorry to my ancestor because I failed him. I could not find him. So I bought a ticket for 4 days to South Africa. So New York, Joburg down, round trip. And then I land there, and I had one contact. So the first day I told him, can you take me to the Durban archives? So that guy thought this was crazy. I go to Durban archives, 23rd of December. And they said, yeah, did you check the ship list? Yeah, I said, no, I memorized it, man. 150,000 names. I almost knew every name. Then they said, we can't help you. So the next day, this was Christmas Eve, and usually all government offices in South Africa are closed from 20th, but on Christmas Eve, on 24th of December, this office was open. So this office is in Pietermaritzburg. So from Durban, it is roughly an hour and a half. So this was the place where any kids, if you know your history, Gandhiji was thrown off from the train here in Pietermaritzburg. So I told my contact, please take me to Pietermaritzburg. So I'm praying. So and then we go to Pietermaritzburg, and the archive was open. And on a Christmas Eve, this is about 10:30, 11ish. So I go, and then the research assistant said, but we are closing very soon. So what do you want? So tell my whole story that I'm from India, now I'm in the US, my ancestor, 6 children, blah, blah, blah. She said, yeah, if you searched all the ship lists, then I can't help you. Then I'm still crying, and I think I should leave. And then she said, wait, you said your ancestor went back to India. And I said, yeah. She said, did you check the registers of the people who went back to India? And there I said, no. All this while I was thinking the list of people who went from here, that is the only list. She said, yeah, there is a list of passengers, but we did not digitize it. So it is all in old form of registers. And she said, now that was now already about 12:30 Christmas Eve. So she said, now we have to close the archives, and you will have to come back in sometime in Jan. And I told her, ma'am, I can't afford a trip back so soon. And what can I do now? So she said, so Krishna, do you at least know which year he went back to India? I said, I don't. And so this is where I believe that my grandmother, who passed away earlier that year, was in the room that day. So I told Zama, I don't know. So she then I vaguely guessed, okay, 1937. Because I knew that my father was born in 1946, so within a decade he might have come back. So she got me the register of 1936. It was very, very old register. I was scared even to open it because it would tear. So I search because now I'm jogging my memory fast. Viriah and all his sons, Appal Swami, Guru Swami. So I knew all their names. So something vaguely familiar I should find. So then I couldn't find. I gave it back. And then she said, last chance. Now everybody is going. They're looking at me. It's already close to 1 o'clock. And then I begged her. Then I said, okay, 1937. She gave me one more register and kuch nahi hua. Then I said, now the game is over. Now I'm crying. And now it's almost time to close. And I'm still begging her that, please, So then she said, absolutely one last chance, because all the staff had left. Christmas Eve she had to go, and she goes, and she comes back with a register, and first 10-15 pages over. I'm looking at the watch, time's up, and she's about to tear that whole register off my hand, and I found the original name. So this is Viriah and his sons, Appal Swami, Nagaya, so my dad's dad, and Ramaya, and so on. So at a lot of places where we did this book reading and so on. So this is how his name was spelled, Viriah. In Telugu, it would have been spelled slightly differently. But even now, it's close to about 10 years that it happened, I still can't explain as to how a South African research assistant in an office in Pietermaritzburg on Christmas Eve keeps the library, the research facility open for 2 hours, and how she picked that one register. So the search that started when I was a kid ended when I was 44, about 10 years ago. So now you know my age. And by the time I flew back to India, to the US, I could put the whole picture together. So I knew as to what was his age. So I still think he was less than 22, but he would have told his age slightly more, because less than 20, they would have said, bhag jao, kam paise milte hain, less than 14. So this from Krishna district, and I knew when he passed off. So this is the way the search ended, and the journey since that miracle in 2014. Quickly in 2015, we had a big family reunion. So I took my dad to South Africa. So he met his first cousin, that his father's sister's daughter, when he was 70 and she was 70 plus. So they met for the first time. So now the families in South Africa and India are all united. And I work in software. I sell data and analytics services, and all I could do was PowerPoint. And I had this flash, I should write a book. So some of the people here would know this name, Mir Ali Hussain. So he's like my idol and more. So I told him, I want to write this story. So he said, Likho. And then I started writing, and it took only about 3 years. I wrote the book. And in 2019, so thanks to my brother Farhan and Amir, we had a small book reading in Lamakaan. So this is my aunt who came from South Africa. So she came with her daughters, and in the room upstairs, we had a small event. So they just loved being here and connecting with this place, because for a generation, for their mom, they waited that somebody would come from India. They wanted to know, what is this place? Where is my family? So they came, and Lamakaan has a very, very special place in my family, because this aunt remembers it very well. And after 2019, since 2020, I am volunteering for a indentured database now, because I've lived with this now for almost my entire adult life. So I'm working with governments in Fiji and Mauritius and South Africa. The idea is to build a database so that anybody can search for their ancestors. So this November in Mauritius, it will be 190 years since Indians went there. So there's going to be a big celebration, and we'll be launching the version with Mauritius data in it. So right now we have got South Africa, Suriname, and Fiji. So that has been interesting. In 2022, so my father translated the book in Telugu, my mother tongue. So it was fairly difficult for him because he's part of the story. And I told him when he's translating, keep your emotions aside. Just stick to the story. Just tell the story as is. But it was good. And then in 2024, now we are here. So thanks to Amir and Farhan. So thank you. So we have the book in Urdu. And quickly, so today it's about very interesting when you go to travel to these countries. So far I've been to Mauritius, I've been to Fiji and Suriname. आप आराम से फरहान में हिंदी बात कर सकते हैं. सुरीनाम में बस दाल चावल, Fiji easy, same desi food. So at least 3 countries: Fiji, Mauritius, and Suriname. Same Hindi. Huh? Suriname. Suriname is next to British Guyana, and so when you look at the world map, so South America, Venezuela के बाजू है. So 3 Guyanas, मजाक कर रही हैं, but बहुत दूर है. So you had British Guyana, French Guyana, and Dutch Guyana, 3 small countries, but all of them ruled by 3 colonial powers, right? So in British Guyana, strangely, people don't speak Hindi, because the British made sure that it was more English. The Dutch, strangely, who colonized Suriname, they left the schools alone. They said, "तुम जो मर्जी करो." तो आज भी they speak Hindi, अपना खाना, everything is the same. Although you will have one member from a family who lives in Amsterdam, because they get a free work thing for Netherlands. So daily flights to Amsterdam from this very, very small country called Suriname. French Guyana is right next to it. You have Desis who can't speak a word of Hindi or English. They'll speak only French. Aadha Khandan Paris mein hai. So very interesting to see 3 small countries, totally different cultures. So there was this conference in Suriname where I got to meet these people, and lot of stories. So Guyana is very, very beautiful, that part of the world, the food. And but here is where I end my book as well, that we don't learn from history. So when most of the people here look at, say, Dubai, right? Everybody thinks of the Burj Khalifa, right? But how many of us pause for a moment and find out, कहाँ से आए थे लोग who built this Burj Khalifa? So from India, ये मुल्क से जो है 75 लाख मजदूर मिडिल ईस्ट में काम करते हैं in these 6 countries. So जो मेरे परदादा के टाइम के वर्किंग कंडीशंस थी ड्यूरिंग इंडेंचर्ड लेबर, आज भी they are the same. Because while writing the book, I went to Doha, I went to Dubai, I went to Riyadh, and these people work in that hot sun. When you land, they promise you some electrician and कोई नौकरी. So यहाँ से करीमनगर, महबूबनगर, तेलंगाना से काफ़ी लोग जाते हैं दुबई. Even from old city, lot of people go, and they are promised work as electrician, fitter, जो भी है. The once you land there, the kafil, who is a sponsor, he takes your passport and the game is over. They could make you work in a sheep farm or on the construction site. And I invited a gentleman called Basant Reddy. Unfortunately, he's not here. So one of those people who spent a lot of time. So Amir bhai, apparently every year you have 5,000 Indians who die and whose bodies are not shipped back to India. 5,000 of these laborers die a year because of the heat, lack of health care, and you can't document them. And it is such a tragic thing that the families here don't even know that these people die. So, Bhavi, this person called Basant Reddy, I hope you'll get to meet him. So he spent his life trying to figure out how to get those bodies back. That's what he does. And it's a very painful thing where the bodies, he collects them in Hyderabad airport and he takes them to Nizamabad or Karimnagar. So he says it is so gut wrenching because before they go, यहाँ से 2-3 लाख रुपए लगते वीसा के लिए. So इन्हें उधार लेता, राइट, उधार लेके तो घर गिरवी रखने का, ज्वेलरी गिरवी रख के जो है दुबई चले जाते हैं. अगर वहाँ पे खुदा न खास्ता उनकी मौत हो जाती, बॉडी वहीं पे है, फैमिली को नहीं मालूम क्या हो रहा. So it is people like Basant Reddy who are getting these bodies back, driving and telling the family that, this is what happened. So strange and complex problem. And but that was the last slide. Shukriya. Hope you liked the story, and we can have any questions and answers.